Welcome to The Advocate's Voice, Personal Injury with David Maran.
Welcome back to The Advocate's Voice, Personal Injury with David Maran. David is a New Jersey personal injury and auto accident attorney with more than 35 years of experience fighting for people who've been seriously injured due to someone else's negligence. I'm John Lieberman, and today we're talking about what happens when you're hit by a drunk driver and how a DWI accident lawyer can help you get justice and compensation. This is episode 7, Hit by a Drunk Driver, What a DWI Injury Lawyer Can Do. And hello, David. Good to see you.
Good afternoon, John. How are you today?
I am doing well. Let's jump right in because I know we have a lot to get to. If I were hit by a drunk driver, what's the very first step I should take to protect my legal rights?
Okay, real quickly, we'll do the basics after any motor vehicle accident. First, make sure you're stopped in a safe location. Assuming you are, check yourself out, check out your passengers, call the police, tell them if someone is seriously injured and needs an ambulance. They will send for help. That's the basics. Make sure you're safe. Make sure you've called for medical assistance. Once that's occurred, then look around. See what's there. If you're able to get out and document the scene, go ahead, take some photographs. A lot of photographs. Try to cover the scene, the cars, individual details, street signs, traffic light, license plate, cameras on adjoining buildings, things like that. You're starting to collect evidence for a later claim. So these are basics. Try to figure out who may have seen the accident, and especially in the case of an intoxicated driver, try to find people who have observed the drivers, the way they were handling themselves. Were they slurring? Were they able to communicate, and so on? Do try to get as much information as you can from that scene.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on that, David, and that is, how is a DWI-related car accident different from, say, a typical personal injury case?
Well, you're doing two investigations. You're doing two cases combined. One is what happened at the scene. How did the accident occur? Usually it's pretty stark. The drunk driver ran off the road, slammed into the back, disobeyed a stop or a traffic light. It's usually pretty obvious. But the other part of the case is, where was that person drinking? Who might else be responsible to you for failing to stop that person from continuing to drink?
So could I pursue both a criminal and a civil claim against a drunk driver in New Jersey?
Absolutely. Generally, though, it's the prosecutors that bring the criminal action. Usually it's county. Sometimes I imagine it could be municipal, but it's the criminal prosecutors which bring criminal action, and they're looking to correct the driver's behavior and punish the driver for disobeying the law. The civil case is to obtain a fair measure of damages, money damages for yourself or your family. That's principally how they're different. You can do both, but it's the civil lawyer who's actually going to put money in your pocket.
So speaking of money, what kind of compensation potentially could a DWI accident lawyer like yourself help someone recover?
Well, the obvious is compensatory damages, and that's simply the legal term for pain and suffering damages, loss of wages, outstanding medical bills, things that the accident directly causes. In the case of a death, it's wrongful death damages. It's all those damages that would ordinarily be permitted on the civil side. Plus, you can certainly and should make a claim for punitive or punishment damages as well.
So on the punitive damages, does being hit by a drunk driver increase one's chances of getting that specific type of damage?
To be honest, probably not. It's difficult to get punitive damages, principally because you're not allowed to have insurance pay those damages. It's considered against public policy.
Hmm.
So you have to get the punitive aspect of the case directly from the defendant. And sometimes that person might have to go to family to come up with additional money over and above the insurance policies. And the money is coming out of their pocket.
So I know people are always wondering, what if the driver was arrested but then not convicted? Can you still file a personal injury claim?
Oh, absolutely. The standards of proof are different. In a criminal action, we must prove someone guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. In a civil action, we merely need what's called a preponderance of the evidence, something that's more likely than not, something that's probable. So we don't have the same difficulties as they do in the criminal side to get those convictions.
So we know there are a lot of drivers who are uninsured or underinsured. How do you help there? Can you help even if the at fault driver doesn't have insurance or is underinsured?
Absolutely. And perhaps this is the most important real reasoning why an experienced DWI attorney, someone who's done this type of litigation before and understands what that is necessary to prove your case, the driver of the vehicle, the drunk driver, is going to have an auto policy or not. And you're going to have an auto policy of some level. So if he, it's probably a he, doesn't have insurance, you've hopefully purchased good uninsured motorist coverage on your own policy, and that will protect you. But any auto policy is likely far less than a commercial policy which might be available to a bar, for example. So if the bar overserved that drunk driver, their commercial policy is likely to be much larger than any auto policy which is in play. So that the DWI accident attorney knows these things. And yes, they're going to take the policies that are available on the drunk or from you if you have uninsured motorists. But the bar is going to be the big target because they have the big policy. What you have to collect, what you need to prove, is much different, however. With regard to the drunk driver, they probably did something incredibly stupid and caused the accident. That's not going to be hard to prove. And depending upon the nature of the damages, you take all the money. The bar, on the other hand, you need proof that that person was already visibly intoxicated when they were yet served another drink, basically pushing them over the top, making them incapable of driving or incapable of driving safely.
You're illuminating a lot of very interesting points, David. Let me ask you this. Should I hire a personal injury lawyer even if the insurance company had already offered me a settlement?
I would think so. And I would think so specifically because even if they give you a whole great big pile of money, they're going to ask you to sign a general release. Unless you've reserved your rights against the tavern or bar or social host, wherever that person was drinking, you may have eliminated all other claims by signing that release. Lawyers like me, they will talk to you usually without charge and no obligation. So make the phone calls. Talk to individuals who claim to be top flight personal injury lawyers. You'll know quickly whether they know what they're talking about. And do it sooner rather than later, because there's a lot more evidence that needs to be collected to truly pursue effectively that Dram Shop action against the tavern, for example, or the bar that may have overserved that drunk driver.
You've been doing this a really long time, almost 4 decades, not trying to age you, but you have this whole wealth of experience. How does that experience as a personal injury lawyer in Newark help DWI accident victims get real justice?
Real justice is a terrible term. We can't make people well. We can't heal injury. We can't bring back people who've passed. All we're able to do is achieve the maximum amount of money which is available. And then once we do that, if when the situation calls for it, invest it properly so that the money is protected and lasts as long as the family, for example, might need that money. That's really how we can help. Understand how all the parts of the system work to get as much of a recovery as possible, both physically through medical care, billing, taking care of those bills, and then financially in maximizing that recovery. And then also when especially when children are involved, guiding the investment to suit the family and the child to pay out as long as possible, as long as that child will need that assistance.
Very well put. Well, David, thank you so much for your time. It was super enlightening, and we appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much for speaking with me.
And thank you all for listening to The Advocate's Voice. If you've been hit by a drunk driver, David Maran and his team are here to make sure you recover everything you're entitled to. You can visit njmalpractice.com to learn more, to schedule a consultation. And if this episode helped you, don't forget to please like, subscribe, and leave a review.
Thank you. Good day, everyone.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.